Welcome to the TK Show with the Athletic Bay Area's Editor-in-Chief, Tim Kawakami.
Everybody, Tim Kawakami here, TK Show, recording from Warriors headquarters this time, not my humble home studio, because we came out here to get the person who's drinking a Pepsi right now and snuck it past the training staff, I believe. The owner of your Golden State Warriors, your two-time defending, three-time champion in the last 4 years, Golden State Warriors, Joe Lacob. Joe, good to be here. How you doing?
Thank you, Tim. Well, it's always good to be back here.
Yeah.
I've been gone this summer quite a bit, and just to be back in the facility feels pretty good.
Anything interesting happen in your life over the summer? I'm thinking there might have been something, an event that was pretty major.
I received a lot of congratulations this summer, and I was wondering, when they say that, were they talking about me getting married, or were they talking about winning another championship?
In your mind, which is
I never quite knew, so I just say thank you very much for both of those.
You married your fiance,
I did.
now wife Nicole.
Yes.
How was that? I would imagine a very sedate, quiet affair, or am I wrong? Was it a nice?
Well, it was a great wedding.
In Montana?
Day.
In Montana?
No, we did it at up in Napa Valley.
Okay.
At Meadowood, and it's her favorite place on earth, and it was a very small wedding, pretty simple but pretty fun. Everyone was there. Some people said it was the best wedding they've ever been to. It was a little unusual, and it was memorable.
What does it change anything for you, or anything feel different for you? I mean, you were engaged for a while, so is it a different level for you to be married to Nicole?
I mean, it does feel a little bit different. I was engaged for 10 years, which is a long time. But it was mainly circumstantial, and I think we just felt like we're committed and wanted to do that. And I just want, I always like people around me. I feel like they're doing really well and they're set for life, and I want her to feel comfortable that our situation was resolved for forever.
Nicole obviously has a role with this franchise, head of the foundation. What are you most proud of with that foundation? Where do you think that foundation works its best?
Well, what they're doing today. Today is the most important day of the year, and they're all, in fact, including Nicole, are upstairs right now in a conference room all day long, making the grants for the year. It's the grant committee. And I don't know what the number is going to wind up being today, somewhere $1.5 million to $2 million, I believe, for this year, which is, we give everything pretty much away that we raise every year, which is not an endowment. And I'm proud of the fact that we can, just like on the basketball court, you can point to results and every time you play. And the same thing here. I can feel every year that we're making a difference in someone's lives, in people's lives. And hear all the great stories of these kids that are getting funded to lead their dreams, basically going to college, or even maybe earlier in their academic careers. And education means a lot in my family. I was the first one to go to college, as we've discussed in the past, and I consider it a tremendous privilege, and I want to make sure that others have that opportunity as well. And frankly, I don't think there's anything else that you can do that is more impactful than providing education.
All right, well, let's talk about maybe some other things that happened this offseason. Haven't talked to you, I think, since you guys signed DeMarcus Cousins. And I think we exchanged a quick messages back and forth. But how fast did that really happen? Just for you, as when did you know it was a possibility? When did you think it could happen, and how quickly did it come about?
Well, I think you know the story. It was on the second day of free agency. I think it started on a Sunday, didn't it? Sunday morning. And I think it was on a Monday morning, the next day, that we were progressing down the path we were sort of planning to go on, looking at some other situations.
Wings, right, looking at wings.
Basically. Yeah, mainly looking at wings. And Bob called me and said, "You're not going to believe this." And he said, "What would you say if we could get DeMarcus Cousins?" Which I was like, I'd say that's pretty incredible. How's that going to happen? And he told me about that DeMarcus had called him that morning, and that this was a possibility, and he was already checking this out, not only with me, but with some of the key players on the team as to how they would feel. And it was that fast. He said, "What would you say?" And I said, "Well, if everyone else is all for it, including Steve," which I thought was an issue, potentially, we didn't know, and that I would be for it. I mean, it didn't take me but a minute. And I knew what the financial terms would be. It was Obviously, for our mid-level non-taxpayer or taxpayer. Mid-level,
No, you're a taxpayer, Joe.
Taxpayer. We are a taxpayer. You're right.
I'm pretty sure of
You're
that.
definitely right about that. See, it's a couple months away now. Forgetting.
Yep.
But taxpayer mid, which I knew what the number was, and I was like a no-brainer. Now that costs us a lot more than that, as you know, in reality. But no-brainer if we could do that and add a fifth All-Star. And it really happened over the course of just a few hours, where we got feedback from Steve, from players. Bob and I talked about it. He talked to DeMarcus, who said he absolutely wanted to do it, which was kind of stunning. And it happened real fast. We did it.
Did you have him on any lists before that, or a wish list, or no list?
You can ask Bob this. Maybe he did. I certainly wasn't thinking anything like that. Who would think that would be possible?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing about free agency, Tim, is that you think you know what's going to happen, but you don't necessarily. So you have to be prepared to maybe turn a little bit in a different direction and take advantage of an opportunity. And we're a team that has put ourselves in position to have opportunities. That's the whole point, right? And
you like taking big swings, right?
I mean, we do. We've done it since the beginning. We've taken some aggressive big swings, and they've worked out for the most part, and I think we will always do that.
You were looking at other players. Were you looking at other players for the mid-level, or was it you weren't so sure you were going to? Because, again, it's basically costing you $20 million, right? I mean, if you add the salary plus the taxes. Were you always going to use the mid-level, or was there some?
No. In fact, I would say, in all honesty, we went into free agency with the attitude that we were not going to do it necessarily. But if the right opportunity came up, we would. Now, maybe that's me saying that. And Bob and the rest of the crew are like, yeah, he'll do it as soon as we get the right guy.
That sounds about right to me, actually.
Yeah. So I can't say what they were thinking, but my attitude was, hey, we're spending a lot already. You got to blow me over with something amazing, and they did.
Obviously, it spurred a whole new round of, oh my God, they're ruining the league. Oh my God, this is terrible. At this point, how do you approach that? You signed DeMarcus Cousins, and everybody's mad at you. Do you even care anymore?
No, it's not our job to care about the rest of the league. It's our job to win. Period. End of story. Nothing else to be discussed. And from day one, that's been our attitude. You could talk about, this or that, how much money we make, what we're building, an arena. All that is really interesting. But our job is to win. Period. And with that, a lot of good things happen and follow. And we're committed to winning in every way. And that means being excellent at everything you do, from the people you hire in your organization to building a new arena, to filling out your roster, to retaining your head coach, whatever it may be.
How good can this team be? I mean, you've won the back-to-back championships. Do you think this is a better team, a better roster than you've had?
On paper, you'd have to say so. I said last year I thought it was the best team we had ever had, and I dared say that I thought we should win the title if things, all injuries aside and things like that. And we did. Wasn't easy. And now I have to say, going into this season, I have high expectations. I think everyone else does. We might as well just admit it. And I'm okay with that. And I think our organization should be okay with it. You okay with it, Raymond?
Not only, you better check with him. You better check with him, Raymond Ritter. And looking.
We have high expectations. We want to win. We kind of expect to win. We have a great roster, as long as we stay healthy and do the things we're supposed to do. And I think we have a good chance to.
You said before, should win. You think this team should win the championship?
Well, I'm trying to, not have Raymond look at me sideways here.
Who cares about it? Who cares?
But no, I think we have the best team. I do, and I think the players should expect to win this year too.
You mentioned, I think at the end of last season, that you were going to approach Klay Thompson and Draymond Green with contract extension, at least offers. Did that happen? Was there any progress made with either one of them?
I'll let Bob address those specifically, but I think it's fair to say we've had discussions with both of them over the summer, the representatives, and nothing's been done, or you'd hear about it. But we would love to retain them long-term in the organization, and we will do whatever it takes to do that.
Do you need some cost certainty down the road? I mean, we've talked about these are huge salaries. You have huge salaries already on the books. Do you need some level of certainty about who's going to be around long-term before you can make some other decisions?
You're never going to – it's becoming more of a year-to-year league than ever before. We have a couple of big free agents actually several this next summer, as you know. And we're entering into that environment you don't know for sure. All we can do is create an environment that makes it so they want to be here. That doesn't mean just money. That means, how we treat them, great food, and treat them every day in the organization, and involve them and make them want to be a part of this community. And then we let the chips fall where they may. I mean, they've earned the right for free agency, and they have a chance to go where they want to go. And nothing else I can do at that point, as long as I know we have done everything we can do to keep them.
One of those guys who's coming up as free agent was a free agent this summer. Signed a 1-year deal again, Kevin Durant. Did that one? I mean, he could have signed longer. I think I predicted he'd sign a 2-year deal to get a larger number. Any concern on your part that he only signed a 1-year deal and now he's going to hit free agency and he might hit it pretty hard next summer?
Well, that's a two-edged sword, right? Sure. I think I would have liked to have had him. We would have liked to have had him been here longer, sign a long-term deal. But on the other hand, we're happy to have him. And, by him signing a 1-year deal, it did save us a little bit of money, actually, right? So it allows us to do some other things, like maybe we wouldn't have DeMarcus Cousins, right? So as an example. And KD's been great. He's my hero, man. He has been a really good partner for us. He's taken, as you know, a little bit of a discount the last few years that have allowed us to do a few extra things. And, I'm never going to forget that.
You going to have to re-recruit him? I mean,
of course we do. He deserves to be able to go and be happy wherever he wants to be. I hope it's here. And I hope he feels the same way that I do and we do about him when it comes time next summer. But you never can predict these things. And so we'll do our job, and he'll do his job, and we'll see what happens next summer. Let chips fall where they may.
I remember talking to you before Game 3 of the finals, and we're sort of laughing about Bob's comment at the time was, this thing isn't going to last forever. It's just not going to last forever. And you said, I always tell Bob that it can.
Well, it can.
Yeah. I mean, just keep winning every year. Just keep winning championships. I mean, you talked back then like a Spurs-like run, and they didn't win. I mean, they never won back-to-back championships. It's hard.
It's very hard.
How long can you be a championship-level team with this core? I mean, are you at least bracing that at some point, relatively soon?
No, I'm not bracing for that. I'm doing exactly the opposite, which is we're going to do whatever it takes to make this run continue to have great teams and provide winning teams to our, hopefully, championships to our fans. And every year we have to go into it with the same kind of aggressiveness and aggression and intensity and desire to keep or put the best team on the court that we can. And that's Bob's job to do that, along with a little help from me and the other owners. And hopefully each year we go in and we do our job, and other teams are working hard to become really good too. Yep. So you can't, who knows? When people draft guys and they're better than you think, and a team takes a leap or people improve, we can't really account for that all the time. We're always surprised every year, right, by some teams that are a lot better than you thought they were going to be, or maybe teams that's worse as they're going to be. Our team is really interesting in that we know what we have. We have guys that are in the middle of their careers. They're established, proven guys, and someday they may fall off and get worse, but I don't think they're going to be falling off at 28 years old or 29 years old. So, we're in a very good position in that regard, and we should have high expectations as long as we do our jobs.
What did you think when you saw LeBron go to L.A.? Did you expect that? And
I did. I expected it, and I don't really care. I mean, I think it's, if anything, I'm positive about it because I think it's good for the league to have the Lakers be great again, or at least good. Look, he worked for the Lakers, Raymond Ritter, so he's probably got a little soft spot there. Who knows? But and I was a fan of the Lakers, by the way. I lived down there also in my teenage years. Look, I like the Lakers being good. I hope the Knicks get good someday. Chicago gets better. I like some of the bigger market teams. What's amazing about the NBA is it's been so successful in the last few years without the big market teams being successful. Imagine how good it'll be if some of these teams really do perform. So it's a good thing. LA, San Francisco is a great rivalry. LeBron against the Warriors is a great rivalry. It's exciting. You're asking about it because it's going to be fun. And I'm looking really forward to it.
And maybe no more finals trips to Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'm not against that. Love the city of Cleveland. I'm not against skipping over that one.
I think, look, Cleveland's a great place, but 4 years is enough.
Yes. I think 3 years is probably enough.
We're going to take a quick break to talk about our friends over at LinkedIn. The right hire can make a huge impact on your business. That's why it's so important to find the right person. But where do you find that individual? You could try posting on the job boards, but can you be really sure the right person sees your job? Instead, find the right person who will help grow your business with LinkedIn. As the world's largest professional network, people go to LinkedIn every day to grow professionally and discover job opportunities. And 70% of the US workforce is already there. LinkedIn Jobs matches people to your role based on more of who they are, their skills, interests, and even how open they are to new opportunities. That way, your job gets seen by more of the right people. Most LinkedIn members haven't recently visited the top job boards, but 9 out of 10 members are open to new opportunities. So you can only reach them on LinkedIn. That's why a new hire is made every 10 seconds using LinkedIn. And businesses rate LinkedIn 40% higher than job boards at delivering quality candidates. So, hurry to linkedin.com/TK and get $50 off your first job post. That's linkedin.com/TK to get $50 off your job post. linkedin.com/TK. Terms and conditions apply.
We were talking a little bit before we started recording about how you're going to actually afford all this. I did write something not too long ago about how Chase Center is going to be a bonanza, and I mean, no one's disputing that financial bonanza. There are certainly debts being incurred by the building of it, which you pointed out to me. But I wrote it. I'm going to ask you. I mean, when you're looking at re-signing these guys, you're looking at a payroll that could, including luxury tax, could get to over $300 million. Is this at all an issue, or is this team set up to be able to pay something like that if it's worth it?
Well, fortunately, we've continued to do well, and so it's allowed us to pay us. This year will be about $200 million, as you know, all in, which is an astronomical number in the NBA by itself. Forget 300 for a minute. I think we're about 70 million in total taxes and whatever penalties, and so we're over the luxury tax limit. That's a lot of money. But we're fortunate enough to be able to do that. And, we'll just have to see what happens. We're in a position going forward that either because Chase Center generates revenue and we're doing well, or because we just don't give a damn and want to win, how you can decide whatever that is.
It's a combination.
You can decide what that is. But if it's worth going for it, we're going to go for it. And I can't say what that's going to be because, things change every year. And it depends. Our free agents, will they stay? Will they not? One guy leaves, our payroll changes drastically. Yeah. I don't want that to happen. Yeah. But I'm just saying, so this is a pretty crazy business. Your costs really are very dependent on, one decision by a player.
Yep. What are you most looking forward to about Chase, other than the gobs of money that I've written that you're going to make? When you think about it coming up in a year, last year at the Oracle, when you think about Chase Center, what's the thing that you most are looking forward to?
I was just there yesterday for all day. I'll be spending more and more time there, as you know now, because we're getting into all the final decisions on a lot of building issues. Honestly, I'm so excited because it's been such a long road. I can't tell you, this is the hardest thing I've ever been involved in. I've built companies, but this is, 7 years now, and it'll be 8, actually 9 since we bought the team by the time we move in. It's a long, hard thing to do, and it's so hard because of all the political things you have to solve getting there, the financial aspects of it, the labor costs, and how you don't know what the environment's going to do for labor when you're doing it, and of course it's gone up. Designing it correctly, hoping that what you put down on paper actually is what it turns out to be. Yesterday I was so excited walking in there because the roof's on now, and I got to sort of get a better sense for, in reality, what is it going to look like in there? Is it going to be the great basketball mecca, intense, intimate environment that I had hoped we could maintain with a new building that so many new buildings do not maintain? Yep. And I think it's going to be. It really feels, it's a basketball-sized arena, not hockey, the floor. Yep. And the way we've constructed it, I think we're on track. I think it's going to be an exciting environment. Not to mention what's outside of it. All the services, all the restaurants are going to be right there, like at Oakland. Obviously we don't have that. We're on a freeway, and there's nothing on site there. There'll be a lot of restaurants, and you've got a whole city around you. So it's just going to be a whole fun place to be in so many ways, and so much energy around the place and in the place. I hope and I believe that it's just getting more exciting by the day. And I can count it down now. We're talking about a year to go.
Yep. When you bought this team, you and Peter bought this team, was it always with this in mind? Was it always San Francisco? Was there a thought about staying in Oakland?
No, there was. The first year was really all about, we've got an old arena. It's going to get older. What do we do? What should be our plan? And we knew it was going to take a long time, not quite this long. And we evaluated. I had 5 different meetings with Oakland. 5. And the first goal was to see what could we do by staying there, because that's where our current home base was. And it became pretty evident in that first year that just wasn't going to be possible. It just wasn't. We couldn't even get to the point of a discussion of any realities. And so we started looking broader, and we started analyzing what would be the best place. And we really felt and do feel today that where we're going, whether it had been the other location that we started with, Pier 30, 32, or here in Mission Bay, would be the most centrally located place for the Golden State Warriors, Bay Area's basketball team, the Bay Area's basketball team, of any place. Because if you think about it, and I've talked about this many times before, where else can you go where the East Bay residents can take BART, or at 6 o'clock when traffic is counter, you can drive in very easily. So all the East Bay fans, and that's why they're staying in droves as season ticket holders, it's a pretty good place for them to go to. Maybe easier in some respects than going to the current location. Certainly it's better for anybody on the other side of the bay. You don't have to cross a bridge. So I think it's going to be geographically very accessible, and not to mention, of course, that we were very fortunate to get a fabulous piece of land and big enough to put what we need there, including our practice facility and our offices, all on one site. And that's very important when you own and are running an organization, to have the integration of all your people. I was just talking to someone upstairs today, one of our employees, who said how exciting, she was there yesterday. So how exciting is it going to be that we're all going to be in one place? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of have here, except for you play the games.
Well, we're not in one place. We have to all go over there to down the freeway to go to the games.
Yeah.
There, we're going to be there all day and all night. People may never leave.
you mean, wow. Ritter will blow it all off.
I may never leave.
Yes, I believe that. You mentioned that the people are buying, staying. The season ticket holders are staying at a what, 80% rate. Mm-hmm. Was there a worry about that? Was there, were you waiting for those first results? Going, okay.
I mean, we looked at what the 49ers, that's the most recent example, accomplished, and I think it was more like 60. That's probably historically what we should have expected. I did always believe, I had a bet with some of the people in our organization that we would exceed 70. Mm-hmm. I really felt that we were doing the right thing, and actually we're blowing all those numbers, including mine, away.
And I think the championship sort of helped there.
Yeah.
Was there? I mean, I know you always want to win, but was there a strategic? Let's get Kevin Durant right here as the lead up to Chase Center happens, and maybe get him in. Actually, we'll see if you get him in Chase Center also. But was there some strategic thought about that? You needed these last 2 years to be huge to go into Chase Center like that.
I know that's what other teams have thought about going into a new building and should think about. And we certainly have had those conversations. I'm not going to deny that. But whether we were doing that or staying at Oracle, I think we'd be making the same player decisions, to be honest.
And you actually I keep saying you actually dropped your payroll the year that you signed Durant because you had to get under the cap to sign him.
That's true.
That's the point I always make. They're ruining the league. This big city team ruining the league by dropping their payroll. So that's just me. I want to quickly go. I mean, Ethan Strauss recently had a really fascinating story about how you ended up buying this team, which I think is still a classic story. Larry Ellison, everyone is one of the 5 richest guys in the world, whatever he is. I assumed he was going to end up with a team, and you and Peter end up with this team. I don't want to go all over the story, but when did you know you had to kind of make a move on this that was kind of not just your regular auction? Did you just, from the beginning, I've got to have to meet Chris Cohan to make sure I can get this deal?
Well, I think we were not stupid. We realized that he had a lot more money than us. Not a poor guy.
More money than everybody.
He had a lot more money than us. And we knew we needed to do something to increase our odds of winning. And so you've heard the story of what happened. And it wasn't a game or a ploy or anything like that. It was just an honest.
You flew out to Baltimore
to
meet with him.
Flew out to Baltimore to meet with him. Requested very strongly, threatened that we wouldn't go forward in the auction process if we didn't. But, I mean, we needed to do something to try to get us over the top. And, that I thought could do that, and I think it did help.
Have you had any contact with Cohan recently, or even with Ellison? Do you talk about this stuff?
No, I'm too busy doing what we're doing, to be honest. Larry, I see at the games when he comes, and he's been nothing but pleasant. Been a great guy, and I'd love to have Chris actually do a game someday. I haven't talked to him since we bought the team. And I don't know why.
$450 million. Did you at the time think this was actually worth $450 million, or were you paying a premium?
It was to me.
I mean, how did you come up with $450 million?
Hard. Was it difficult?
Yeah. You just found every little you just reach under the sofa cushions to make sure you had the money.
No, we look. Peter and I are not exactly poor. Mm-hmm. The question really is, do you want to try to do something like that all by yourself? That's after-tax dollars. Or do you want to, involve some partners and defend the, I've been in venture capital. You usually don't own 100% of anything. Yep. And you also want the help of having partner investors. That's just the way my DNA is. That's the way I've always done things for 30 years. So in retrospect, maybe I shouldn't have. We'd own more of it today. And it was, a terrific investment. But I wasn't really thinking that way at the time. I would have put in whatever it took to do it. Because I knew that was my moment in time, and Peter, I think, felt it was his moment in time to either make this happen or not. These things don't come along very often, and in your hometown, and an opportunity where you could potentially turn something around, and maybe after they boo you, be a hero.
Makes the story even better. The story even better.
So there's something about that was a very attractive situation, and I think we were going to do hopefully whatever it took. To get it, frankly. At that point, it was just the right moment in time for me and Peter in our lives to do that. And fortunately, it worked out. And, I've spent the last 8 years, I'm pretty much not doing anything else, because there's one thing in getting it, there's another thing in turning it into something successful and admired.
Has it been, harder seems a stupid word when you win 3 championships in 4 years, but has anything about this been different or particularly harder than you would have imagined once you got into this?
It in many ways is very much like I thought it would be. I had the advantage of being part of the Celtics organization as an owner, albeit on the other coast. Mm-hmm. So I was a large owner, but I was not really that involved. Involved enough though to get to see how it worked and to get to know people in the league. And I dreamed about buying an NBA team or sports team for a long time. So really, and so had Peter, we had spent a lot of time thinking about this and what we would do if we ever got it. I'm sure other people do too, but we were prepared. So I have not seen a lot of surprises. I think the 3 things that have really been surprising to me would be, just the whole handling of the media. We've talked about this before. Like, social media has changed things so much. And how you just cannot make many mistakes. Because you'll get crucified. That's just a more difficult process, I think, than anyone can really be ready for. The second thing is, I didn't realize coming into an organization how screwed up an organization can be. It was a lot more work than I thought to turn it around, than I had hoped. And I don't mean this badly, because Raymond Ritter was here before as an example.
He was screwing it all up.
He was good, but there was a lot of work to do to turn it around. Turning something around, it's different than starting something. You have to change a culture. You have to change everything about it, the perception of it by fans and by its own employees. That was hard. That was maybe harder than I had hoped or ever experienced by myself. So that was kind of the second thing. And I think then the third thing, of course, is obviously what I've talked about, the arena. That process has just been, I can't even describe how difficult it is in totality. Anybody, we can criticize, I was at the 49er game the other day. You can criticize Jed York for the 49er stadium all you want and say, it's maybe, so I've heard people criticize it, whether it be the parking or the character of the stadium, atmosphere, whatever. I actually love going there personally. I like it. I think winning will cure a lot of ills. But it's hard just to get anything done when it comes to stadiums and arenas, and particularly in California. very, very difficult, very expensive and very difficult. And so those are the three things, that probably if you asked me would have been harder or more difficult or a little bit unexpected, they would be.
There was the booing, of course, and there was the I'm just going like the Mark Jackson thing. It was like you've been through some things here, but
Yeah.
I think we all saw who you are through these things. Also, do you think you were tested maybe in ways that you weren't expecting in some of these situations?
Yeah, sure. You can't prepare yourself for some of these things. At first, my biggest job was to, get Tim Kawakami to be on my side.
That guy,
because he was tough.
That guy.
That was tough. No, you
Yeah.
were really tough, and you were very skeptical. And so, those are the kinds of things I think about in the early years that I was really worried about. Then you get, things like coaching changes and personnel. Look, we all know, I've been involved in a lot of companies. Those are always difficult. Those are difficult decisions. I was a little more prepared to do that, actually, than turn around Tim Kawakami.
Yeah.
That's the truth. Because I had seen that. I had to fire CEOs before. Look, I know that can be tough, and people aren't always going to agree with what you do. But those are tough things to do, too. Look, you're always being tested, and sometimes there are no real right answers. I was meeting with someone today, playing in my basketball game this morning at Stanford, and it was a young guy. He wanted to meet for breakfast after, and he asked me, I really want to. He's 24 years old. He's an ex-athlete, and he wanted to know, how do I get into basketball operations, and how do I break it? And it's hard to tell someone like there's no direct path. I can tell him the things he just needs to look for and so on, but you gotta essentially just go with, to some extent, what feels right, and you got to work really hard, and you just got to be relentless in the way you pursue it. And sometimes you don't know the answers about how to deal with problems in advance. Sometimes you have to just figure it out as you go, and you have to have some of the right training and seen some of the right things. I call it pattern matching, to hopefully make some of the right decisions.
I don't want to get this all plumb. You know what we argued about most in the early days? You know what it was?
What was that?
David Lee.
Yeah,
that was David Lee. We don't have to go through that, but that was a flashpoint for you and me. It was basketball. It was a completely basketball conversation.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that was that might have been some of what you remember.
Yeah, I like David Lee quite a bit. Even to this day, I saw him at something recently. And, he was important, actually, for this organization. I think you would have to admit, even in retrospect.
I've written that, absolutely. And I think he was really good with Steph. I think it was great to have him with Steph in Steph's early years. Absolutely.
He was a good guy. And, but even for him, there came a point where, it was obvious we had to do something different. And so even though I love David Lee, Draymond Green was Draymond Green.
He was pretty good. All present Bay Area media accepted from this conversation, but you happen to notice that Lee Jenkins got a new job in the NBA. Is that intriguing to you?
I was just reading about it today. I'm not sure I understand it exactly yet. But Steve Ballmer is going to be a good owner. Already is a good owner. I think I actually like him a lot. And he's going to do whatever it takes. I think he's one of these guys that's passionate and wants to do whatever it takes to get there, to ascend to the top. He's got it's like all of us is 30 teams. You got to beat 29 other teams. It's not easy. And even in LA, he's got the Lakers, legend to contend with. But he's hired Jerry West, a smart guy who I think will help him. He's a lot of experience there, and he's building a good organization. And I think he's just going to do what it takes. I think that is to get to the point where he's building a winning team, and I expect him to be a pretty strong competitor.
All right, Joe. I'm going to ask you. I've asked you this a million times, but everyone wants to hear the answer because it might be a little different each time. And I'll follow up with another one afterwards. But Joe, what's your favorite restaurant?
Well, it's a tough one, but and you asked me in the Bay Area. I'm going to assume you mean.
Yeah, whenever you.
I went to this one restaurant. I don't know if you've been. I've only been once, but I want to go back badly. Juno.
I've heard of it. I've not been to it.
Yeah, it's only like 12 seats, and it was a spectacular experience. I recommend people try it. It was omakase, type sushi type. There's a lot of them in San Francisco now. But I thought the experience was, and I don't like long meals, but it was really a great experience and just very, very, he thought every little detail was thought out.
And you have the sushi chef right in front of you.
Right in front of you.
Yep.
It's only 12 seats.
Yep.
It reminded me of a place I went to in Tokyo a few years ago. that was pretty spectacular.
You didn't go to Jiro's place, did you?
I don't remember the name of it.
Was it in the train station?
No.
Okay, that's his famous place.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was pretty cool. So that's one that I point out in the Bay Area that I'm dying to go back to now.
Okay, that's good. And, okay, I'll ask you another one. I'll just say, Joe, what's your favorite book now? Recently?
Oh, boy. You know, that's a tougher one for me. I get a lot of complaints from Nicole and others that I don't read a lot of books because I used to, but I'm always reading magazines and internet like everyone else.
If you got a good story you like to bring up, go ahead.
I don't know. I don't know if I could name one right offhand, but
or just an all-time favorite.
Well, all-time favorite is easier for me. I loved Atlas Shrugged.
Okay.
Quite a bit. I just thought Ayn Rand was. Whether you agree with her politics or not, I just thought it was a very interesting story and great characters. And I also loved, is it Clavell?
Oh, James Clavell.
Yeah. Those are some of my favorites, I think, of all time, really.
Okay. All right. We could keep going forever. We'll do this again, I'm sure. Joe, appreciate it. And win over that Kawakami guy. Eventually, he might come around. Eventually. I'm not sure. Maybe 3 or more, 4 championships more. Might get there. I don't know.
You know, we'll just keep working on him.
Clearly, like Billy Bean was saying last week, he wins in order to get himself back on the podcast. I think, you win. Maybe things will look up.
Actually, if we keep winning, then he'll keep talking to me. If we don't,
sometimes either way. It's either way. All right, Joe. Really appreciate it. I'll never block you on Twitter, by the way. Thanks for having us by, and thanks for talking.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
That's the show for today. Thanks, everybody.